Entering the finals, Holy Angel. Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. After hearing some weeping sounds, Huai seemed to think of something. He suddenly stopped in his tracks and walked towards Zhao Xiao's remains. He picked up his war blade and looked up at Yayi. After this, he asked, "Chief Judge, can I keep this as a reward?" Yayi's mouth twisted a little. It was his first time seeing someone using such a fighting style. However, Huai's ferocious fighting style still left a deep impression on his mind. Tang Sai and Tang Wu. He must be here with Tang Wu. It seems he is also quite gifted. Yes. However, you can only use the soul tool that you've created in the later rounds. All right. Huai followed Huo Yuhao's instructions and tried his best to say as few words as possible. He carried his cannon and the war blade on his shoulders as he left the stage. After he left the stage was cleaned up. Following this, Yayi said, "The second-ranked and seventh-ranked competitors, please come up to the stage." Huo Yuhao controlled his human-shaped soul tool to walk forward. When his soul tool came to the stage, it bent its leg slightly before leaping up. With a boom, it landed on the stage. It looked slightly clumsy, but its aura was pressing. On the other side, the lady in blue from the Common Alliance ascended to the stage as well. The situation wasn't very beneficial to the Alto Chamber of Commerce. One of their soul engineers had been eliminated, and another had been killed. Even though the representatives from the Common Alliance didn't place much in the technical test, all of them still managed to advance. They were much more fortunate. Clang, clang, clang. Huo Yuhao's human-shaped soul tool made its way over in front of Yayi. Huo Yuhao nodded at Yayi. The lady seemed a little fearful, but she still walked over slowly. Her body swayed in an elegant manner as she walked over. She seemed to be about 18 or 19 years old, and she revealed a terrified look on her face. Yayi said, "Both parties, please report your names." Tang Wu. Huo Yuhao's cold voice sounded out. "My name is Lan Ruoruo. Brother, you won't kill me like he did earlier, will you? I'm a little scared." Lan Ruoruo's body trembled slightly. She also looked slightly pale, as if she were truly frightened. Huo Yuhao didn't make a sound. He turned around and walked toward his side of the stage. Beauty trap. This lady from the Common Alliance had found the wrong target. Huo Yuhao had suffered from such temptations several times before. For example, there were Juzi and Wang Xing, who were both stunning. However, he still remained loyal to the love of his life. Lan Ruoruo was just a lady nurtured by the Common Alliance. In his eyes, her soul had already been corrupted. Her actions couldn't possibly draw his pity. Lan Ruoruo's eyes flashed with a frustrated look. She had always believed that she was charming, but Huo Yuhao wasn't even moved. She felt that he was too much. HMPH. As she thought of that, she also turned around and retreated to her position. The soul tools created by the three ladies from the Common Alliance were all very special. They were completely opposite to Huai's soul tool, as they were small and portable. The Common Alliance nurtured such outstanding young ladies because they had some kind of mission to complete. Bulky and large soul tools didn't suit them. On the contrary, small close combat soul tools were the most effective for them. As a result, they were all agility-type soul masters. Begin. Yayi rose into the sky once again. This time, he fixed his gaze on Huo Yuhao. He had to see what Huo Yuhao was going to do for himself. As he announced the start of the fight, Lan Ruoruo immediately moved. She gently pointed her toes to the ground and drifted towards Huo Yuhao like a small, blue bird. She was very graceful, and seemed like she was dancing. However, it was clear that her dress was very special as she moved. As her dress flew slightly upward, her smooth, white skin could be subtly seen. Her flowing sleeves didn't even cover her arms. As she lifted her arms, her sleeves rippled slightly, and her lotus-like arms began to sway. Lan Ruoruo's soul tool was a dagger. The smaller a close combat soul tool, the more difficult it was to create. This was especially so for advanced-level close combat soul tools. Her dagger was completely black, and no soul power undulations could be seen from it. As it stuck close to her wrist, it was hidden from view as she danced. Clang, clang, clang. Huo Yuhao's movements still seemed a little clumsy. He took big steps forward and lifted his arms at the same time. He adopted a posture that seemed to suggest he was ready to engage in close combat. Everyone knew that he didn't have any offensive soul tools with him. He only had his human-shaped soul tool. Furthermore, he was disabled. His legs couldn't move, and it was already a feat for him to control the movements of his human-shaped soul tool. Lan Ruoruo didn't charge right at Huo Yuhao, but only slowly came closer to him by revolving around him. Huo Yuhao's soul tool could only follow her movements clumsily. Yi Yulin furrowed his brow. It seems like this human-shaped soul tool is still a half-completed product. While he can control it with his mind, the mechanical components can't compare to formation arrays in terms of offering agility to the soul tool. However, we can still learn from his human-shaped soul tool. If we can enlarge it and equip it with more offensive soul tools, it'll be pretty strong on a battlefield. It might be good for him to lose. A setback might spur him to work even harder in the future. Lan Ruoruo was getting closer to Huo Yuhao. She revealed more and more of her skin as she danced. She was almost like a fairy, as her blue dress was juxtaposed with her fair skin. Along with her captivating looks, she could easily make one distracted. It was a pity that she couldn't see Huo Yuhao's expression, as he was hidden in his soul tool. His gaze was clear, and a dim golden shone from his eyes. He wasn't bewitched at all. Suddenly, Lan Ruoruo lifted her thigh, and her entire dress flew upward. As she turned, she showed off her butt to Huo Yuhao. At the same time, she made another sudden turn, and brushed past Huo Yuhao's left flank like a butterfly. If he were any ordinary person, he would be stunned by this sudden view. This was also the opportunity that Lan Ruoruo was looking for. After she brushed past Huo Yuhao, her seduction turned into killing intent. Her eyes flashed with a cold and vicious look as she leaped up. She held onto her dagger with both hands, and 3 of her 6 soul rings, 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 1 black, shone at this point. They were all unleashed as she strengthened her soul power. Her pitch-black dagger also turned dark purple. A 3-inch purplish sword light stabbed towards the back of Huo Yuhao's head like the fangs of a venomous snake. It was an attack that she had been preparing and accumulating for some time. Lan Ruoruo was very confident in her offense. Not to even mention that Huo Yuhao's human-shaped soul tool seemed so clumsy, a soul master couldn't possibly dodge this attack of hers. Lan Ruoruo's greatest strength lay in the offensive strength of her close combat soul tool. Compared to a long-range soul tool, a close combat soul tool's offensive might was very great. Her dagger even sacrificed all long-range offensive abilities, and contained the element of darkness within it. It was even able to destroy a soul. It could damage all protective soul barriers and invincible barriers. Not only this, but it could pierce through all metals. It was even stronger than most ordinary Class 7 soul tools. If it stabbed someone, they would definitely die. However, Huo Yuhao's eyes shone brightly just as she made her move. Just as her dagger was about to stab the back of his head, Lan Ruoruo saw 8 streaks of white light shining from Huo Yuhao's back. An impact force suddenly appeared. This impact force wasn't very strong. She was only forced back by 1 foot, given her 6-ringed cultivation. However, Huo Yuhao's body also moved forward 1 foot. 2 feet wasn't considered much to a soul master or soul engineer. However, it made a huge difference to Lan Ruoruo's lethal attack. As a purple light flashed, her attack struck nothing. At this point, she felt things had turned blurry in front of her. The seemingly clumsy figure in front of her had vanished. The spectators had initially thought Huo Yuhao was going to be in huge trouble. At this moment, they were stunned when they saw Huo Yuhao controlling his soul tool to deftly perform a turning action. As it turned, lights shot out from its back. At the same time, a streak of light also shot out from its waist. It drew a very weird arc in the air, and it managed to flip itself behind Lan Ruoruo. As it flipped, it punched towards Lan Ruoruo's shoulder. Lan Ruoruo reacted quickly. After she discovered that Huo Yuhao was missing, she used her left foot as an axis to make a turn. At the same time, she bent her upper body backward and avoided Huo Yuhao's fist. She also pointed her dagger upward and attempted to graze Huo Yuhao's arm. Huo Yuhao wouldn't let her get what she wanted. He lifted his arm and kicked his right leg out towards her supporting leg. At this moment, his human-shaped soul tool didn't seem clumsy at all. It was extremely agile. Yi Yulin was astonished. This kid was pretending all along. Lan Ruoruo's close combat abilities were indeed great. Even in such an unfavorable situation, she was still able to control her own body. She used her left arm to support herself. She was completely arched by now. She used her support leg to spring up, and kicked Huo Yuhao's arm. She was trying to exploit her momentum to dodge his attack. It was a pity that Huo Yuhao didn't dodge this time. He punched her thigh. Bang! Lan Ruoruo screamed in pain. As she smacked her left hand against the ground, she quickly slid back. She was a soul emperor, but Huo Yuhao was a soul king with twin martial souls. His human-shaped soul tool was made entirely from rare metals. After Huo Yuhao poured his soul power into it, it became extremely resilient. She couldn't easily overcome it with her strength. In addition, Lan Ruoruo clearly sensed an extremely cold aura entering her left leg. Right now, her left thigh had gone completely numb, and she couldn't feel anything there. Huo Yuhao had no intention of letting her go. Suddenly, his body shone with golden light, and an indescribable aura was released from his body. His silvery white human-shaped soul tool turned completely golden, and the majestic aura that it released put a lot of pressure on Lan Ruoruo. At this moment, Lan Ruoruo felt as if she were facing a title doluo. She couldn't help but scream again, and she quickly retreated as she jumped on one leg. Huo Yuhao snorted coldly. He stepped forward with his left leg and punched his right fist out. Suddenly, a bright golden fist projection flashed in the air before it disappeared. Instantly, it came before Lan Ruoruo. She frantically used her dagger to resist the fist projection, and it was eventually destroyed. However, the gold that spread from this fist projection still struck her body. She felt as if her body had fallen apart. An indescribable spiritual trauma seemed to cause her to be rapidly paralyzed. Her internal soul power seemed to have been restrained by that invisible force, and her mind seemed to lose its connection to her body. The figure in front of her was too strong. She wasn't hurt by soul power or the fist. She was hurt by spiritual power of Huo Yuhao's sovereign's descent. Huo Yuhao had the soul power amplifier that he had created. The formation arrays of his amplifier were above his right fist. It enabled his human-shaped soul tool to unleash his strongest attack. His sovereign's descent was unleashed through his amplifier, which greatly enhanced the strength of his attack. However, Huo Yuhao was also slightly regretful. If his amplifier was large enough to be placed in front of his chest, his overall abilities would grow by another level as he enhanced all of his soul power. However, he was still delighted that his attack was successful. That was because he knew that he was slowly grasping how a human-shaped soul tool greatly enhanced a soul master's abilities. It wasn't just about the soul power amplifier, there were many other methods that could be used. The entire venue went silent. Huo Yuhao won just like that. He even won comfortably. His human-shaped soul tool was actually so quick and deft. The last strike involved his own self-invented fighting technique, which was very rare even among soul masters. Lan Ruoruo, a Class 6 Soul Engineer and 6-ringed Soul Emperor, lost her fighting strength after she was struck by the fist. Of course, no one knew that Huo Yuhao had used his ultimate ice on Lan Ruoruo earlier. She suffered because she was careless. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so easily struck by his sovereign's descent earlier. Tang Wu wins. Yi Yulin descended from the sky, stunned as he looked at Huo Yuhao. There was also a look of admiration on his face. He's succeeded. He's really succeeded. From the agility of his human-shaped soul tool earlier, I can tell that the combination of mechanical components and formation arrays in his soul tool is already perfect. His soul power amplifier isn't too impressive though. After all, the difficulty of making such an amplifier depends on the quality of materials available. Such a human-shaped soul tool can enable a disabled person to fight with so much agility. This is a success. His Highness will certainly like a human-shaped soul tool like this. Everyone from the Duskwater Alliance felt extremely at ease now. He Kaitu and Huo Yuhao had both competed, and both of them didn't even give their opponents a chance. They had already taken half the spots in the semifinal. The Duskwater Alliance was in a very favorable situation now. The third match was between the Lady in Yellow from the Common Alliance and the last remaining Soul Engineer from the Alto Chamber of Commerce. Both parties didn't intend to give up on this opportunity, and they fought very intensely. Eventually, the Lady in Yellow attained victory. She defeated her opponent using her long sword, a close combat soul tool, and advanced to the next round. The last match was between Huang Xing and a lady in red from the Common Alliance. Huang Xing, who always seemed very composed, finally demonstrated his ruthlessness in this match. His claw-shaped soul tool was useful for both close-range and long-range attacks. At the same time, he was determined enough not to be seduced by his opponent. Eventually, he chopped off one of his opponent's arms and forced her to concede defeat. The semifinalists were Yayi, Huo Yuhao, Huang Xing and the lady in yellow, who was called Yayi. However, Huo Yuhao and Yayi were troubled after the draw was made for the semifinals. They drew each other. They were going to face each other in the semifinal. It's good like that too. You'll have enough time to rest. I'll forfeit this round. Yayi announced his forfeit, and Huo Yuhao successfully advanced to the finals. Nangong Wan was delighted with Yayi's decision to forfeit. This proved that Tang Sai was inferior to Tang Wu. In addition, Tang Wu could conserve his fighting strength for the final. Of course, it would be great if Tang Wu and Huang Xing were the finalists. The Duskwater Alliance would win no matter what if that happened. The second semi-final round was Yayi from the Common Alliance versus Huang Xing from the Duskwater Alliance. Both competitors went up to the stage. Yayi was the prettiest among the three representatives from the Common Alliance. However, she wore a cold look at this point. While Lan Ruoruo lost to Huo Yuhao, she didn't suffer any injuries. However, the lady in red was critically hurt by Huang Xing. Even if her amputated arm was reattached, it might not be as agile as before. Yayi coldly glared at Huang Xing and sternly said, "If you are a man, you'll fight until the end. Don't concede defeat." Huang Xing laughed coldly, "You'll have the opportunity to tell whether I'm a man in the future. Begin." Yi Yulin couldn't be bothered with their trash talk. He immediately announced the start of the fight. Yayi pointed her toes to the ground and burst towards Huang Xing like a patch of yellow clouds. Huang Xing rested his claw-shaped soul tool on his right arm. As he lifted it slightly, the three sharp claws at the front shot out 3 feet long light blades. These light blades were used to chop off the arm of the lady in red earlier. As Huang Xing lifted his claws, he shot his light blades towards Yayi like bolts of lightning. Not only could his light blades be used for close combat, they were also very effective for long-range attacks. After locking onto the opponent, these light blades spiraled out and intercepted Yayi from different directions as they drew arcs in the air. They weren't easy to be dodged. Furthermore, they were extremely sharp and very explosive. Resisting them without any protective soul barriers was bound to deplete the target greatly. Huang Xing called them soul chase claws. After unleashing his 3 sharp blades, Huang Xing unleashed yet another 3 light blades from his claws. He was advancing quickly towards Yayi. Yayi wasn't afraid, as she faced these spiraling light blades. Earlier, she had already witnessed Huang Xing's fighting style. The lady in red had suffered as the blades blew apart. Yayi wasn't going to make the same mistake. She turned her wrist, and a long sword appeared in her grasp. This sword was around 3 feet and 3 inches long. The blade of her sword was 1 inch thick, and it emanated a bright golden light. There were 7 stars on the sword, and 3 formation arrays. While there were only 3 of them, they were very small. Miniature formation arrays such as these could only be made using advanced techniques. She pointed her sword forward and gently waved her blade in the air. A blurry sword projection was created. Ding, ding, ding. As 3 clinks sounded, she accurately struck the 3 sharp blades that were spiraling towards her. These 3 blades were stopped in the air. However, Yayi seemed to turn illusory, as they were about to blow apart. She was like yellowish fog, and drifted forward instantly. The speed that she managed to achieve was almost close to the standard of an instant teleportation. Boom. 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 3 explosions sounded simultaneously. Yayi had already avoided the danger. As Huang Xing was advancing towards her, he managed to close the gap between them. After witnessing his opponent's outstanding swordplay and speed, Huang Xing was slightly stunned. However, his abilities weren't ordinary either. His eyes shone, and he continued to take big steps towards Yayi. It was important to note that he was from the Holy Ghost Church. Yayi's body flashed with an illusory light projection. Huang Xing didn't unleash his light blades again. The 2 of them quickly met in the center of the stage. Yayi evidently hated Huang Xing. As she shook her wrist, her sword formed countless streaks of lights. These streaks of starlight were glowing brightly, aimed at Huang Xing's eyes. Huang Xing didn't panic. He straightened his claws and started to move them. A layer of dim green light shone from his claws, forming a shield that blocked the sword lights. His claws were adept at both attacking and defending. Not only were they very explosive, but they even possessed great defensive strength too. It was as strong as a Class 6 protective barrier. As he blocked the sword lights, Huang Xing's third purple soul ring lit up. The purplish light exuded from Huang Xing's third soul ring seemed to be very gentle. However, a sinister aura slowly arose from it. His eyes turned blood red, and he let out a low-pitched whisper. With his body at the center, a layer of purplish-black light covered his surroundings to a diameter of 30 meters. Darkness descent. Huang Xing's martial soul wasn't considered very strong among evil soul masters. It was called an evil servant, a strange human-shaped martial soul. According to the Holy Ghost Church, such a martial soul came from an avenging spirit after a human passed away. When an avenging spirit was contaminated with the evil chi of heaven and earth, it would become a very special existence. It became an evil servant that could harm living things through its resonance with the evil chi of heaven and earth. Once an evil servant entered the belly of a pregnant woman, this martial soul would be imprinted on the fetus body. However, the pregnant woman would die during childbirth, and her blood would nourish this evil servant, which would slowly take form in the fetus body. However, evil servants weren't considered very strong among evil soul masters. They were even considered one of the weakest martial souls. It was vastly inferior to the bone dragon, abomination, or skeleton king. This was also the reason why Huang Xing chose to be a soul engineer in the Holy Ghost Church, and not a pure evil soul master. He wouldn't excel as an evil soul master. While an evil servant wasn't very strong, it was still considered an evil martial soul. It was mainly auxiliary in nature, and unleashed all sorts of soul skills filled with an evil aura to weaken its opponents, which indirectly strengthened itself. At this moment, Huang Xing unleashed an auxiliary type soul skill of his evil servant called Darkness Descent. Within a certain domain, it would greatly affect his opponent's vision, and the sinister, evil aura from this soul skill would invade his opponent's body. The effect of his Darkness Descent was even greater at night. Indeed, Yayi suddenly felt everything turning dark around her. She seemed a little frantic when she couldn't see Huang Xing clearly. She subconsciously retreated a few steps and waved her sword in front of her body. Although she blocked Huang Xing's attacks, she was at a disadvantage right now. Huang Xing revealed a cold smile on his face. His fifth soul ring also lit up. He was a very composed person. Once he gained the advantage, he would never allow his opponent to flip the tables on him. His 10,000-year black soul ring caused the surroundings to turn even eerier. Layers of purplish-black fog started to rise from the ground. This thick fog started to engulf Yayi. Yayi's movements slowed, and waves of sinister aura continuously entered her body. A yellow light projection appeared behind her, but this projection was already being torn apart by the purplish-black fog. Spiritual extraction. While it was an auxiliary-type soul skill, it was still a 10,000-year soul skill. It could greatly influence an opponent's spirit. If the opponent's cultivation was too inferior, his spirit would really be detached, crushed, and turned into food for Huang Xing's evil servant. Huang Xing normally attacked ordinary people. Those who suffered under his spiritual extraction would usually turn into vegetables after they lost their spirits. The light from his claws became even stronger now. Meter-long light blades shot out towards Yayi. You want my life? You can die under my soul-chasing claws first. Without your flesh, I'll tear your spirit apart. The spirit of a soul emperor must be delicious. My cultivation will rise a few levels again. A mixed look of ferocity and delight appeared on Huang Xing's face. To ensure that his strike was fatal, he even added a thick purplish-black layer to his claws. This was his second soul skill, Darkness Touch. It was a lethal poison filled with the element of darkness. Yayi was about to be killed. It seemed destined that the Duskwater Alliance was going to win this match, and by extension, the entire tournament. However, there was one person who didn't concur, Shangguan Weiya. A cold and scornful smile appeared on her face. She knew who backed the Duskwater Alliance, and she was therefore prepared against evil soul masters. The Duskwater Alliance had prepared valuable and rare treasures for Huo Yuhao, but the Common Alliance had also prepared something. Yayi's actual body seemed to be in a daze right now. However, the tip of her sword suddenly shot upward before turning just as the claws were about to strike her. Suddenly, the 7 gold stars on her sword shone, and an intense golden light exuding a sacred white glow spread out. The purplish-black fog that was invading her spirit behind her screamed tragically. Instantly, the fog disappeared, and the surrounding darkness also vanished. Ding! Yayi's sword struck the center of Huang Xing's claws, blocking them. The spirit behind her returned to its previous position as well. She also revealed a cold smile on her face. Huang Xing's spiritual extraction was overcome, and Huang Xing's evil servant trembled. His evil servant was directly connected to his own spirit. Although he wasn't hurt, he was also stunned. Following this, the sacred golden white light struck his body. Huang Xing only felt a warmth engulfing him. Purplish-black fumes started to rise from his body. As his body shook tremendously, he screamed tragically and started to stagger backward. It was a holy light, filled with an aura of holiness. This time, even the vice leader of the Holy Ghost Church couldn't remain seated in the resting area. Holy light was the jinx of evil soul masters. Was Yayi's martial soul of the rare holy element? Yayi wasn't going to answer his question. As she stepped forward, she slashed her sword. At the same time, her 5th black soul ring shone. Her spirit received an enhancement, and her terrifying strength soared. A holy intent was revealed on Yayi's face. At this moment, her earlier disguises melted away. Yes, she was of the rare holy element. She was not even from the Common Alliance. She had joined this tournament to target the evil soul masters of the Duskwater Alliance using the Common Alliance. Evil soul masters were very adept at harming living spirits to increase their own cultivation, whereas a soul master, who possessed the holy element, like Yayi, was most adept at killing evil soul masters to strengthen herself. Yayi's holy look also moved Huo Yuhao. Her spirit had reached an extremely intense stage at this instant. The golden white light that she emanated illuminated the entire stage. Even the darkness in the sky almost seemed to be taken over. This is holy. The holy element was different from light, they were 2 different existences. However, the holy element was much more effective against evil than the light element. Yayi's right hand had turned completely golden white by now. A strong sword light also engulfed her sword at this moment. At the same time, 2 white, feathery wings appeared behind her back. She pointed her sword forward, and her sword light engulfed Huang Xing's body. 5th soul skill, Holy Sword. An angel. Her martial soul was an angel. No wonder she was of the holy element. Angels were worshipped by sects in olden times. 10,000 years ago, the predecessor of the martial soul hall was the church. The church was very strong, because they possessed holy strength. At that point in time, there were many soul beasts with evil bloodlines. The church cleansed them, which earned them the recognition of the people. However, the evil soul beasts started to disappear, and the influence of the church started to wane. As they lost more and more talents, they were soon replaced by the martial soul hall. Yayi's huge golden white sword flashed past, and she stood arrogantly on the stage, alone. Huang Xing and his soul tool had both completely vanished. Huo Yuhao couldn't control himself when he saw this scene. It's indeed an era of heroes. The holy angel that has been missing for years has finally resurfaced. To a certain extent, a holy martial soul is an extremity. It's just that Yayi is too rash. Does she really think that the Common Alliance can protect her? Perhaps if she had the support of a strong organization like the Holy Ghost Church. Furthermore, she has underestimated how afraid evil soul masters are of her martial soul. I'm afraid. As Huo Yuhao thought to that point, his aura turned slightly cold. The vice leader and 4 elders of the Holy Ghost Church stood up at the same time. To them, a holy martial soul could threaten the very existence of the church. Huo Yuhao sighed in his heart. He could hardly look after himself right now. Even if he wanted to help Yayi, he couldn't. What should I do? At this point, the vice leader lifted her right hand and said, "Let's talk when the tournament is over." Yes. The 4 elders acknowledged her words immediately. However, they knew that Yayi was doomed. It wasn't just Yayi. Even Shangguan Weiyia could sense the sinister looks coming from the Duskwater Alliance. Shangguan Weiyia felt a premonition. Was I wrong to use Yayi to deal with the Duskwater Alliance? Forget it, the Imperial family is backing me. No matter how arrogant these evil soul masters are, surely they wouldn't dare to mess with the Imperial family. However, Shangguan Weiya didn't realize that everyone had a bottom line that couldn't be crossed. This was also applicable to evil soul masters. Yi Gai was filled with positive energy. At this point, it was clear that she was the only one among the three ladies that didn't expose her skin. She pointed her sword towards the Duskwater Alliance, looking arrogant and scornful. The tip of her sword shook gently, and pointed towards Huo Yuhao's human-shaped soul tool. This girl doesn't know her limits. She's actually trying to provoke me. Huo Yuhao was a little speechless. She's really fearless. How can the Common Alliance compare to the Holy Ghost Church? This video will end here.